You are standing in the supplement aisle staring at two tubs. One is protein powder, the other is creatine. You have enough in your budget for one, and like most people, your hand reaches for the protein first. Muscles are made of protein. You drink the shake, you feed the muscle, it grows. That logic feels airtight, but it is backwards. Not the protein, not the shake, the work. The extra reps creatine quietly buys you, compounding over months. Here is the misconception. Most people are already close to their protein target. Nobody told them. The creatine gap is the real one, and nobody talks about it. But for the vast majority of people eating a normal diet, that is not the bottleneck at all. The real bottleneck is the signal, the mechanical trigger that tells your muscle cells to grow in the first place. Creatine works on that signal side. Protein works on the repair side. They are not even in the same category. And when you understand the difference, the choice becomes obvious. Today, we are running a head-to-head comparison across 5 rounds. Mechanism of action. What happens inside the muscle cell? Timing and protocol. Who benefits most based on their individual situation? And the final verdict on which one to prioritize if you can only pick one. This is not based on supplement labels or brand marketing. This is exercise physiology. By the end, you will understand exactly what each one does at the cellular level and be able to make a decision based on what your body is actually short on. Let us start with round 1. Creatine first. Every time you lift something heavy, your muscles burn through a molecule called ATP. Think of ATP as a tiny rechargeable battery inside your muscle cells. One burst of effort drains it. Your body has enough raw ATP on hand for about 5 to 10 seconds of all-out work. That is it. After that, the battery is dead and you physically cannot maintain the same force. This is where creatine comes in. Creatine sits inside your muscle cells holding a spare phosphate group, like a backup charger. The instant ATP gets spent and turns into its drained form, ADP, creatine hands over that phosphate and snaps it right back into ATP. Battery recharged. You get another rep, maybe 2. Not the hardest trainers, the fullest tanks. That is what separated the ones who grew from the ones who plateaued. And mechanical work is the actual trigger for growth, not the supplement, not the shake, the work. Supplementing with creatine boosts your stored reserves by 20 to 40%. Your muscles literally hold more fuel for those short, explosive bursts. Now, protein powder. Completely different job. When you drink a protein shake, your gut breaks it down into amino acids. The most important one for muscle growth is leucine. When leucine hits a certain threshold, roughly 2.5 grams per serving, it flips a switch inside your cells called mTOR. Think of mTOR as the foreman on a construction site. When the foreman shows up, the crew starts building. In this case, the crew is your cellular machinery, and what they are building are new muscle proteins, the actual fibers called actin and myosin that make your muscles bigger and stronger. This process is called muscle protein synthesis. So here is the split. Creatine does not build muscle. Creatine lets you do more work. The work builds muscle. Protein does not make you stronger in the gym. Protein gives your cells the bricks they need to rebuild after the gym. One is the input side, the other is the output side. They are not competitors. They are not even playing the same position. But the story inside the cell gets even more interesting, because creatine has a second trick that most people have no idea about. When creatine enters a muscle cell, it pulls water in with it. Creatine is osmotically active, meaning it attracts water molecules the way a sponge draws moisture out of a countertop. Your muscle cells physically swell, and if you have ever started taking creatine and gained 1 to 2 kilograms in the first 2 weeks, this is why. That weight is not fat. It is water inside your muscle fibers. Most people dismiss this as fake gains, just water weight. But your cells do not see it that way. When a muscle cell swells, sensors on its outer membrane called integrins detect the increased pressure. They interpret that swelling as a growth signal. The cell does not know it is water. It just knows it is bigger, and it responds by ramping up protein production to match. Your cell does not care why it is bigger. It just knows it is bigger, and it starts building to match. That is a second growth pathway from creatine that has nothing to do with lifting heavier or doing more reps. Now compare that to what happens when you add extra protein on top of a diet that already has enough. Your body can only use so much protein per meal for muscle building. The research puts this ceiling at about 0.4 to 0.55 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight per meal. Anything above that gets burned for energy or excreted. It does not stack into more muscle. And here's the thing. The average Western diet already provides around 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram per day. The optimal range for building muscle is 1.6 to 2.2. Many people are already close. Some are already there without a single scoop of powder. So protein powder fills a gap that for a lot of people is smaller than they think. Creatine fills a gap that food almost cannot close at all. That is the cellular round. Now the question shifts from what these do inside you to how you actually use them in your daily life. And this is where one of them becomes absurdly simple and the other gets overthought for no good reason. Creatine has the easiest protocol in the entire supplement world. 5 grams a day, any time of day. With food, without food, morning, night, training day, rest day, it does not matter. Your muscles are not using the creatine you swallow today during today's workout. They are using the stores you have been building over the past weeks. Full saturation of those stores takes about 28 days at 5 grams per day. There is a loading option where you take 20 grams a day for 5 to 7 days to get there faster, but it is not necessary. Either way, you end up at the same place. Once your stores are full, 5 grams a day keeps them topped off. That is the entire protocol. Protein timing gets more attention than it deserves. You have probably heard of the anabolic window, the idea that you need to slam a shake within 30 minutes of your last set or the workout was wasted. The window is real, but it is not 30 minutes. It is more like 4 to 6 hours, and even that matters less than your total daily intake. If you are hitting 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram spread across 3 to 5 meals a day, each meal containing at least 2.5 grams of leucine, you have maximized your muscle protein synthesis for the full 24 hours. The shake after the gym is fine, but dinner with chicken does the same job. So who actually needs each one? This is where it gets personal. If you eat a plant-based diet, your baseline creatine stores are 20 to 30% lower than someone who eats meat regularly. That means you have more room to fill, and you will see the biggest performance jump from supplementing. On the flip side, if you already eat a lot of red meat, you may be a low responder. One study found vegans gained 17% more from creatine than meat eaters. Makes sense. Empty tanks fill faster. Full ones just overflow. Creatine shines brightest in activities that demand repeated short bursts, resistance training, sprinting, high-intensity intervals. If your thing is long-distance running or cycling, the benefit drops significantly. Protein powder flips the equation. It matters most for people who genuinely cannot hit their protein target through food. An older adult with a reduced 4,000 calories a day who cannot stomach another chicken breast. Someone on a restricted diet. Your body gets less sensitive to protein signals with age. The foreman gets harder to wake up. The crew still shows up. The signal just costs more. That is real, but modest, and it only matters if your diet was falling short to begin with. So picture this. An older adult who barely eats might need protein powder more than a 25-year-old gym regular. A vegetarian lifter might need creatine more than anyone else in the weight room. The answer is not which supplement is better. The answer is which bottleneck is bigger for you. And that brings us to the verdict. If you can only buy one, creatine wins for most people who lift. Here is why. You cannot get enough creatine from food to fully saturate your muscle stores. You would need to eat 1 to 2 pounds of raw meat every single day. Your body makes 1 to 2 grams on its own, but that is not enough. The gap between what your body produces and what optimal stores require is a gap only supplementation can close. Protein is different. Chicken, eggs, dairy, beans, fish. You have dozens of whole food options that deliver the same amino acids as any powder on the shelf. Protein powder is a convenience tool. Creatine is a unique compound, and the cost difference is staggering. Creatine monohydrate runs about 3 to 7 cents a day. Protein powder costs 75 cents to $1.50 per serving. Systematic reviews show creatine supplementation increases strength gains by 5 to 10% and adds 1 to 2 kilograms more lean mass than training alone over 4 to 12 weeks. That is a meaningful edge from something that costs less than a stick of gum per day. Most people buy protein first because the logic feels obvious. Muscles are made of protein, so feed them protein. Creatine does not feel like it is doing anything. You do not taste it working. You do not feel a pump from it. Its benefit is invisible. More total work per session compounding over months into more muscle. The flashy purchase is not always the smart one. So, here is where you stand. These two supplements were never competing. They work on completely different links in the same chain. Creatine fills your muscles with backup energy so you can do more work per session. That extra work is the growth signal. Protein gives your cells the raw material to rebuild after that signal has been sent. One is the spark, the other is the lumber. You need both for the house, but only one of them is impossible to get enough of through food alone. Your body makes 1 to 2 grams of creatine per day on its own. To fully top off your stores through diet, you would need to eat 1 to 2 pounds of raw meat every single day. That is not realistic. Creatine monohydrate closes that gap for pennies. Protein is different. Chicken, eggs, Greek yogurt, beans. You have a dozen ways to hit your target without ever opening a tub. Powder is a convenience, not a necessity. So, if your budget forces a choice, 5 grams of creatine daily and whole food protein is the sharper play. If you can afford both, use both. They are complementary, not redundant. But before you buy the protein powder, track what you actually eat for 1 week. You might find the gap is smaller than you think. Think back to that supplement aisle. 2 tubs, 1 budget. You walked in thinking the protein was the obvious pick, because feeding the muscle just makes sense. Now, you know the real question was never which one builds more muscle. It was which bottleneck is your body actually stuck on. The answer to that is not on the label. It is in your diet, your training, and the biology you now understand well enough to decide for yourself.